more fun to watch. Good morning. When I agreed to present the message for today, I thought, I'll have plenty of time to come up with the topic. But the closer today came, the less I knew what the message was going to be about. I had asked a friend to help me make a PowerPoint for it, and she told me I needed to write the message first. I told her I thought it would be better if she made the PowerPoint presentation, and then I'd write the message from whatever she came up with. Somehow she didn't think that was a good idea. A young man that was preaching for the first time stood before the congregation for quite a while. Finally, he opened his mouth, and slowly he began to speak. On the way here this morning, only God and I knew what I was going to share with you. Now, only God knows. I have previously presented messages, one about being kind and the other about being welcoming, which brings me to a story. A brand new pastor had his first church. As it seems to usually be the case, several of the elderly decided to wait until the new pastor arrived to die. Consequently, in his first 4 weeks at his new church, he had 8 funerals. Of course, that meant there was no time to write sermons for the Sundays. So, he used the sermon from the first Sunday for each of the next 4 Sundays. Some of the people from the congregation went to the bishop and complained. The bishop asked the people what the sermon was about. They hemmed and hawed and scratched their heads. They absolutely could not remember. The bishop said, "Let's let him use it one more time." Now, I'm not going to use my messages from before, so you don't have to worry. But this story helped me decide what I should speak on, and that is laughter and having fun. Fun is defined as enjoyment, amusement, or lighthearted pleasure. My definition of fun may be greatly different from yours. Fun for me is defined in several different ways. One of them is hanging out with Kaylee doing the fun things she enjoys doing. Another is going out hunting or fishing or even pickup farming with Bruce. Another is taking my 4-H kids on different adventures that we do. And another is making sure my critically ill patients are breathing to the best of my ability. I'll bet there aren't many of you that think critically ill patients can be fun, but they are, especially when they turn the corner and start healing. Now, I'm sure that some of you think of some things that are fun that I find anything but, like riding a horse, or riding carnival rides at the fair, or maybe watching a scary movie. There was a pastor that was taking his little girl to bed and asked what she would like to pray for that night. Promptly she answered, onions. They prayed about onions and she went to sleep. The next morning the pastor asked her why she wanted to pray about onions. She answered, because you said in your sermon we should pray for things we don't like. That would be liver and beets for me. Is there a place for fun in our church? I sure believe so. What does the Bible say about having fun and laughter? It's almost like the Bible is commanding us to have fun, like it's our duty. In 2 of the most somber passages of the Old Testament, the note of joy is there. In Proverbs, it says, strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. And Psalms says, weeping may tarry for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Then there's Ecclesiastes 3:1-4, that Daryl read. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under the heaven, a time to weep and a time to laugh. Jesus, too, taught us about joy and its gifts, one of which is laughter. In Luke, Jesus says, blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. In John, he says, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of great cheer. I have overcome the world. And in John, Jesus says, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. 1,000 years ago, the Monday after Easter, as well as the next Sunday after Easter, were times of fun and great laughter. Clergy played jokes, members pulled pranks, jokes were told in church. And do you know why all this fun and laughter was significant? It was the celebration of the fact that God got the last laugh. Even death could not keep Christ from his resurrection, and death won't be able to keep any of his followers down either. In our century, some churches have adopted Holy Humor Sunday, and the entire sermon is a series of jokes. How fun is that? One source of humor is the collection called Letters from Children to God. And who has more fun than children? A few of these read, Dear God, who draws the line around countries? Signed, Nan. Dear God, thank you for my baby brother, but what I prayed for was a puppy. Signed, Joyce. Dear God, I bet it is very hard for you to love all of everybody in the whole world. There are only 4 people in our family, and I can never do it. Dear God, if you watch me in church on Sunday, I'll show you my new shoes. Signed, Mickey. Dear God, I didn't think orange went with purple until I saw the sunset you made. That was cool. Signed, Eugene. Humor is a natural elixir that we really should have more of. Laughter may not be able to cure all that ails you, but it sure can help throw off sadness, confusion, hurt, and uncertainty that comes with life. Laughter may not be able to find that job to help pay your bills, but it sure can lighten the load and keep away the self-pity and help find things to be thankful for. Humor may not be able to stop all the craziness and brutality in our world, but it sure can serve as a reminder that there is good in our world too. I think we should count the benefits of laughter and having fun. Number 1, laughter helps us not to take ourselves too seriously. Laughter truly can keep us honest with ourselves without taking ourselves too seriously. There was a pastor of a church in New York that liked to tell a story about his dad, also a pastor. A member of the congregation, who wasn't the best cook in the church, had given the elder pastor a pie to take home and enjoy. When he got the pie home, he promptly threw it away. The next Sunday, the pie maker asked the pastor, Well, how did you like that pie I made for you? Well, responded the pastor, such a pie as you've created doesn't stay around our house for long. Laughter helps us heal physically, psychologically, and spiritually. Norman Cousins wrote in An Anatomy of an Illness that he discovered he could heal physical ailments such as reactive arthritis and issues with his heart by taking massive amounts of vitamin C and making himself laugh. Cousins said he made the joyous discovery that 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter had an anesthetic effect, and he could get at least 2 hours of sleep pain-free. Number 3, laughter helps us find balance in a world that can be brutal and vindictive. Marlo Thomas tells how when she was growing up, her dad, Danny Thomas, would ask her, anything funny happen in school today? He was always looking for the fun. Couldn't we use that as a plan for each one of our days? In a world that is so mean and so harsh, finding laughter can help us not be mean, harsh, brutal, or vindictive. And number 4, laughter empowers us to live more and more in the image of God in which we were created. Could it be that laughter is a part of the divine image in which God created us? Shouldn't we be proclaiming to the world that God wants us to love, laugh, and have fun? These are only 4 of the reasons God wants us to laugh today, tomorrow, and every day of our lives here on this earth. Find something to laugh about every day. Laugh at yourself or the craziness of others. Tell jokes, even bad jokes, and hold on to the funny. Laugh instead of complaining. Laugh instead of whining. Laugh instead of living in regret. Laugh instead of living in resentment. And remember, it is your duty as a person of faith to laugh. Jesus said so. After an exceptionally long and boring sermon, the congregation filed out of the church, not saying a word to the pastor. Almost to the end of the people, a gentleman shook the pastor's hand and said, Pastor, that sermon reminded me of the peace and love of God. The pastor was so excited. No one has ever said anything like that about one of my sermons. Tell me, how did it remind you of the peace and love of God? Well, said the man, it reminded me of the peace of God because it passed all human understanding, and it reminded me of the love of God because it endured forever. And now just one more. 3 boys were bragging about their dads. The first boy said, when my dad writes something called a poem, he gets $100 for it. The second little boy said, "That's nothing. When my dad writes something called a song, he gets $200 for it." To which the third boy replies, "When my dad writes something called a sermon, after he's done reading it, it takes like 8 people to collect all the money for it." And my last line was going to be, "Will the ushers come forward to collect all the money it's going to take for this sermon, but we have communion." So